Is this going to be recorded?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And where would we find it when it gets recorded?
It's a secret. You have to know the famous password.
We're recording the session right now, and then once the recording is uploaded, we will upload it to social media, and then I can send a YouTube link out to everybody that's registered today.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Kevin.
And then I think the other chambers will have it, we'll send it to them so they have it on their website as well.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
So we're going to, what time is it?
10:03.
10:03. All right, so let's get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Wendy Garrick, CEO of the Roseville Area Chamber of Commerce, and I am here today on behalf of your other fellow chambers. So I see Tom from Lincoln on. Morning, Tom. Is Jenny from the Loomis Chamber on? And then fresh back from vacation is Jenny, and fresh back from vacation is Robin Trimble with the Rocklin Area Chamber. So again, this webinar is brought to you through a partnership of our 4 chambers representing the South Placer area. We're pleased this morning to have Jane Christenson with us. Jane currently serves as Placer County's Assistant CEO, and she provides direct oversight for procurement, revenue collection, information technology, and now she's your go-to COVID person for us. So Jane is going to be talking to us about Placer shares. And also on the call with us this morning is Kristin York, who is going to be the administrator for the county for the Placer Shares program. And one thing we want to make sure that everyone understands that this is a very fluid program. Details, it was just approved last week by the board, and details are unwinding probably as we speak. One of the things that Jane and I shared just before the session started was the original dollar amount that was allocated to businesses from the county was $6 million. And as of the last board meeting, it is now $7 million. So again, we can only hope that who knows what will happen with those funds. But again, we're very fortunate that the county has opted to share their CARES Act money with the local businesses and nonprofits. So without further ado, Jane Christenson, tell us about Placer Shares.
Happy to, Wendy. Thank you so much. And great credit to the Roseville, Rocklin, Lincoln, and Loomis chambers for getting this ever-evolving information out to all of you. As Wendy noted, the board has been discussing use of its federal CARES dollars since late June. And it was just last Tuesday that they agreed on the broad parameters of Placer Shares, which is an element of how the board intends to share 20% of its federal CARES dollars with our local community, given this COVID crisis. So thank your board member, thank your chamber, and happy to share this information with you together with Kristin York of the Sierra Business Council, who will be administering this program on Placer County's behalf. Just a little bit of background. For those of you who may not know, the county stands to receive approximately $40 million via the Federal Coronavirus Relief Fund. Shorthand is CARES Act dollars. They essentially decided on June 23rd that they would dedicate 32 million of that to county expenses and public health and public safety arenas for all the costs that we've been incurring since this crisis began in March. But the remainder of that funding, $8 million, is to go for Placer Shares. As Wendy noted, $7 million for small business assistance grants and $1 million for nonprofits, as well as C6 organizations such as your chambers. To help us administer this program, we're relying upon, as I mentioned, Kristin York of the Sierra Business Council, and she'll follow me with a couple more specifics on how this program is evolving. For the nonprofit side, for that 1 million portion, we're relying upon our community foundations, the Placer Community Foundation and the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, to administer that program. but we do anticipate that the first place you'll visit when you start to apply later this month will be placer.ca.gov/shares. Right now, it's a nascent website. All we have on there is a little bit of program information as well as some FAQs, but we will build and develop the site as we go and certainly keep all of you posted once that portal is live and ready to accept applications. Just a word on eligibility. You know, these are federal funds and these are administered through the state. So there are some caveats on the eligibility for those who could actually access these funds. Of course, you have to be a Placer County business or nonprofit. The board has made it very clear they want to prioritize award of these funds to those who have been most impacted, and that they've defined in terms of if you are among the later stage businesses, for instance, stage 3 and 4 under the California Pandemic Roadmap. If you were closed for a better part of this crisis, those are the folks that they really want to help. We're aiming it at small business in particular. We've defined that as 2019 gross revenues of between 25,000 and 2 million. And we also want to prioritize those who have not been successful in accessing other relief funds. You know, many of you know the Paycheck Protection Act has been out there, the EIDL loans have been out there, and we want to give priority to folks who haven't been successful and or were ineligible to apply for those kinds of fundings if we're prioritizing funding. Excuse me. Last but not least, because these are federal funds, we're also relying upon the Small Business Administration eligibility guidelines, which means, of course, you know, certain businesses are excluded per federal law, those dealing with marijuana, those dealing with, you know, exploratory or speculative businesses. So we are following federal guidelines as well in the administration of these funds. The key thing, and Kristin may talk a bit more about this, is how does all that boil down to who's priority for funding? And one of the things that we brought forward to the board was what we call a priority funding matrix, which specifically articulated those businesses in stages 3 and 4 deemed most hard hit based upon the data available, as well as based upon stakeholder interviews with over 24 Placer County business interests, our chambers, business leaders, and others, so that we have that local vetting of who is most eligible, who is most impacted for these funds. In terms of award details as proposed, smaller employers, those with 9 employees or less, are eligible for grant funds of up to $5,000. And again, these are grant funds, not loans. They do not need to be repaid. For businesses of greater than 9 employees, but less than 50 employees, you can receive grant funding of up to $10,000. With regard to how we will determine this, because we fully expect that demand for this funding will outpace the supply of money we have to dole out. With regard to, on the business side, those applications will be reviewed to ascertain that they meet these eligibility requirements, and then be entered into a lottery for award of funding, so that we're not in the position of deciding that someone's need is greater than others once folks are determined eligible. On the nonprofit C6 side, those applications will be reviewed by our community foundations as per their model. For those of you who are familiar with community foundations, they are well practiced in administration, grant review, and they will be doing individual application review of all those applications submitted through that nonprofit segment. With regard to our timeline, dates for you to keep in mind. As I said, the board just approved this last Tuesday. We're taking the time to build out and develop our application and website, but expect our portal will go live on August 25th, which is 3 weeks from today. It will remain open for 2 weeks, August 25th to September 7th. We are certainly doing our level best in these intervening weeks, and certainly during the 2-week period, to outreach to businesses and nonprofits to make sure folks are aware of this opportunity. If you've got forums or groups that you want us to talk to, please reach out to me and or Kristin, and we're happy to chat with your group if they're interested and would like to learn more about this. Business grant awards are expected to be announced at the end of September. Nonprofit grant awards the first week of October, with checks going out by mid-October for those who are awarded through this process. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kristin York, again with SPC, who will be administering this program on our behalf, to talk a little bit more about what you need, what you might need to assemble in order to apply in these intervening 3 weeks, our selection process, grant funds use and award, and other Q&As that you may have beyond those that are presently on our website, which is again, placer.ca.gov/shares. So with that, Kristin, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Jane. And in the future, as soon as our application is live, we will record an instruction video on how to get through the application. So today is meant as a general overview. And our job at Sierra Business Council is to ensure that we are meeting the intent of the program and the intent of the Board of Supervisors. And the intent of the Board of Supervisors was to spread this money as widely as possible to the most impacted businesses. So some of the application questions and some of the provisions may seem strict, but that is we've learned from others who have gone before us, other counties, other cities, on how a system can be gamed and how money ends up in the wrong with businesses that really don't need it. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the criteria. But just understand that what we're doing here is to make sure that the businesses who need this most, as identified by EDD information and national surveys on most impacted industries, are receiving this money. The Board of Supervisors also wanted to make sure that disadvantaged businesses defined as veteran-owned, minority-owned, or women-owned were placed in the first priority for businesses, because the research does say that minority-owned or disadvantaged businesses were least likely to receive funding to date from the federal money. Okay, the application design is very simple in that there's an intent. We do have a pre-quiz that applicants will go through, and that is, the pre-quiz is so that ineligible businesses don't ever make it to the application, so that we have a very clean set of data of the pool of applicants. And that pre-quiz will kick out businesses that have gross revenues for 2019 of less than 25,000 or over 2 million. It will kick out businesses that are large, so 50 or more employees, and businesses that are not actually located in the county. So it's very important that that the business has operations in the county. We do know many businesses that operate in multiple counties. There are other grant programs in the surrounding counties, so you'll want to be sure that you're aware of those. Not all of them have been announced. All applicants will be required, there's 3 pieces of information that are required to be uploaded. And when we do our recorded webinar on the application, we will show step-by-step how to do that upload. The first is a verification that the business really exists, because we have seen in other counties where people apply, but they're not actually in business. So that is one of 4 pieces of information. It could be the first page of your tax return, whether it be your Schedule C or your corporate tax return. It could be a business bank statement. We would want you to black out your account number, of course. A copy of your current business license, if you have one, or a copy of your business P&L. So that's the first category. It's one of those items. The second is a completed W-9, so that when the funds are dispersed, we have a streamlined process and we're not going back to 1,000 people to look for their W-9. And the third is a copy of either a driver's license or an ID showing that you have a placer, that business owner truly is a person and not a bot. We will have a hotline operating 24/7. We are working to set that up now, and we have a very robust, it's 11 pages currently of FAQs. So hopefully any question that people could answer are answered in those FAQs. Those will be posted on the county site. They'll be posted on the application site, and they'll be available. We can send them out, and the hotline will also have access to those to walk those through things that aren't clear. I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions so far. I just threw a lot of information at you. You could use chatter. I guess unmutes a lot of people. And your questions are important because they may make it into the FAQs, because we're trying to think of everything, but it's possible that we haven't.
So did I understand correctly that the nonprofits will not be a lottery?
Nonprofits will not be a lottery. That is true, because both community, for one, there are fewer nonprofits in the county. Both nonprofits entities, so both community foundations, are very familiar with the nonprofits in their region, and they felt like it was more fair for them to go through based on need and express need and the narrative from the application. So that is correct.
Thank you.
Another
thing comes up, a question. Oh, go on, Jane, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say just a word too for those that might be concerned about privacy. The county website will include the information, but all of your personal proprietary information will be submitted directly to our administrators so that it does not become public information. So if you're concerned about sharing, the first page of your tax return or IDs, realizing you access the website for applying directly to SBC and or our nonprofit so that your information will not become public in the hands of the county.
Correct, and it's not even on the SBC server. The applications are held with the application software server. They are not, so it's the only people that can access the information are the administrators of the program. The county does not have access to the information. So that's important to know. Another question I want to say that does come up, and I see the chat starting to fill up, is I'm a business owner and I own 3 businesses in the county. Can I apply for all 3? And the answer is no. In the spirit of having this money go as far as possible, in this first round, you may only apply for one of your businesses. If you have a business partner, that business partner could apply for the second business. However, it's designed so that the money goes as far as possible. Okay, I'm going to go through the chat then, if that's okay. Is there a minimum amount of time these businesses have to have been operating? So this came up during the Board of Supervisors meeting, and we did alter this. If you were in business prior to March 13th and can verify that with one of the 4 items that I talked about, a bank account, a business license, a tax return, or a financial statement, you are eligible. And the thought behind that was there are some people that invested heavily in their business, opened up only to be immediately shut down. And the consensus was that was not fair. So if you can prove that you were in business, you are eligible. Web address, we will put it in the, Jane, can you put that in the chat? I don't have the application web address yet, but.
Actually, it looks like somebody already did it.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you to Andrea Feria for it up there.
Thank you very much. What is the max amount for nonprofit grants? Also $10,000. It's based on size. The nonprofits, it's based on the size of your operating budget. When is the application open? It will be open on August 25th. It's open for 2 weeks. So those docs would never be accessible to, no, the documents are held. We're working with a software company, Foundant Technologies. This is what they do. They have done it for communities throughout the United States. They do this for community foundations. Data security is one of the reasons that we chose them. So they will not be accessible.
And it's also one of the reasons why the county chose not to administer this program, to protect the privacy and proprietary nature of folks that may be submitting.
Yes. I heard the award details for businesses, $5,000 to $10,000 depending on size. Do you have award details for nonprofits? Yes, it's based on operating budget. And I'm going to check on that, but I believe it's, if your operating budget is below, is $500,000 or below, it's 5,000. And above that is 10,000, but I will double check that. When the application period is open on August 25th, is it based on a first come first served basis, or can you submit any time during the 2-week period, or will when you submit factor in the decision process? This is not first come first serve. We are basing this grant on success from other communities. We're using a lottery process. The lottery, what happens, you're going to apply, your business will be placed, if you're eligible, will be placed in priority 1 or priority 2. Those priorities are clearly will be on the website, and that's based on what we cited before, EDD data, industry's most hardest hit, and feedback from our community leaders. Then the priority 1 will go through a random number generator lottery. We will do this live on Zoom. We are working on our protocol for how to do that. Many other counties have done this, and it is actually the most fair. The reason we don't do first come first serve is people have issues with systems crash, software crashes, people don't have access to computers. This is actually the most fair. Okay, can you please repeat the revenue requirement for eligibility? Of course. Gross revenues or receipts. So that's, if you do a Schedule C, it's line 1. So your total sales, not your profit, your sales in 2019 of, if it's below $25,000, you are not eligible. If it's above $2 million, you are not eligible. The sweet spot is between $25,000 in sales and $2 million in sales. If you have more than one company in Placer and you can apply, and you can only apply for one, can you use that money for one and transfer to one of the other businesses? Reason, my business opens in September, but I need the money for that business. Well, I mean, it sounds like you could apply for the other one. We ask you, in the application, you will be asked to verify that you are spending the funds on specific, that are business related expenses that resulted from COVID. And the eligibility for those expenses, and these are federal rules, they're not our rules, are operating expenses such as rent, payroll, benefits, inventory, working capital. So for this question, I might need some more information on this question. The business should have been opened and then had to shut down in order for you to be eligible for this grant.
So, Kristin, Joel Joyce of Placer County here, I can answer that. Once the money is, if that business wins a lottery, the money is non-transferable from that business per federal rules.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Thank you. Okay. Non-profit award based on operating budget and number of staff. Correct. Yes. And Gary, give me a second. I'll look that up. I don't have it right at the tip of my pen right this second, but I will look it up before we're off the call. Can you explain a bit more of feedback from the community for selection of grant need? Yes. We interviewed over 24 members of the community. These were business owners, bankers, chamber presidents. Many of you are on this call that were interviewed over where the priority was perceived, where the need was perceived for this money. You also have the opportunity to continue to give us feedback, but we have vetted that the feedback was consistent throughout the entire county, East and West County, of where the need was. And that was by industry and size of business. And Gary, thank you, staff of 9. So up to 9, so which is the same, basically same benchmarks as we have on the business. So up to 9 and below 500,000 for nonprofit. Yes, for nonprofits, less than 9, 5,000 max, over 9, but less than 50 employees. I want to point out, an owner operator is considered an employee An independent contractor is not. So when you're filling this out, you want to include yourself or other, if your spouse works with you, include them as an employee. The reason independent contractors are not included is that they are eligible to apply as a business themselves, as a small business. We see this often with salons where you have a salon owner and they say, oh, I have 10 employees, but they're not actually employees, they're independent contractors. So we don't want to get in a situation where we award that salon owner $10,000 and then the 9 other people $5,000 each, because there's no fairness in that. Something I'm actually going to make a shameless plug because I see that Kyla Bryant is also on here. But everybody should know that they are eligible, any of these small businesses are eligible for free business counseling from the Small Business Development Centers. Kyla works out of the Sacramento office. I'm in the Truckee office. We service, together, we service the entire Placer County. And our counseling is free to business owners, and you are eligible for that. Or if you're a chamber, your members are eligible for that. And we have helped, I would say, a record-breaking number of businesses during this time. And it can be, I just put the link to our SBDC, but if you're in Kyla's district, we just refer you there. But we have collectively and within our region, with our different specialties, restaurants, finance, etc., we have over 50 independent counselors who are free to you. That's technical assistance. They can help you with finding loans. They can help you with money. They can help you with marketing plans. So use that resource. It's free to you. It's paid by taxpayer dollars. Okay, if the business has received either PPP or idle money, will they be ineligible for this program? Great question. So if your business has received it over $150,000 from a forgivable PPP loan, you are not eligible. That's over $150,000. If you have received no money at all, you are eligible in priority 1. If you have received between $0 and $150,000, you're eligible for priority 2. So most companies are eligible. If company has gross over $2 million with locations in different counties, but under the threshold in Placer, are they eligible? You would apply for that one location with the revenue from that location that is in Placer County. Okay? So if you own a chain of sandwich shops or something, but your Placer County one has sales of under $2 million, you can apply for that location. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, yes.
Question for you with your plug on the SBDC. If people needed additional help with the application process, is that where you would direct them?
You could. The application process is so straightforward. The first place they go is the hotline, and then our recorded application. They would call the SBDC if they needed maybe their line of credit is maxed out and they need to refinance. Maybe they're looking to expand and they want a loan for a new location. We have businesses opening now, believe it or not. Maybe they're looking to pivot their business more to online. Definitely want to come to the SBDC, those types of things. Kyla will kill me if you call her for the application help. That's being run out of the Sierra SBDC. So we can definitely help. They can email us. It'd probably be something very, very simple. We're trying to make it, we have pop-ups on every single question. So, but I know how these things are. Sometimes it's just not clear. it can be, it always seems clear to the person who built it. Is number of employees based on pre-COVID status? Yes, at your peak. So even if you're a seasonal business, you want to, and we have a lot of seasonal businesses in different areas of the county. I know Forest Hill, very seasonal. The Eastern County, very seasonal. So you want to pick your peak number. Okay. Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. I have been hearing that Tahoe is getting slammed with visitors. I don't think that was for me. What? I don't think that question, yes, but yes, Tahoe is definitely getting slammed with visitors. Okay. Other questions about the application, things that you maybe industries you think that we've overlooked, areas in your community that have been particular pain points? This is designed to address those pain points. And we know that $5,000 and $10,000 is not going to solve all the problems in the world, but the Board of Supervisors, if you watch their meeting and there are multiple meetings on this, you can see that they're doing whatever they can to help small businesses, clearly a priority for them. And so we hope this is helpful.
Kristin, I have a
Yes.
question
Yeah.
on the sales threshold. How or why is 25,000 relevant? I get the 2 million, but I'm not clear on the lower end.
Below 25,000 in revenues, not profits, tend to be hobby businesses. If for you to do 25, I mean, that's roughly $2,000 a month in sales. Presumably, the correlated overhead for that business would be very small. And so that's why the 25,000. To give $5,000 to a business that is doing around 2,000 a month in sales, maybe if they have a 10% profit margin, that's $200. That's 2 years of profit. So there's sort of a general, that's the general consensus on that. And we also looked at other counties that had done this, and that was their recommendation as well. David asks, what about if staff is unpaid? If staff is unpaid, if they were unpaid pre-COVID, then they were not part of your operating cost, so they should not be included. If they're unpaid post-COVID, then that business owner definitely needs to call us because we can connect you with some other resources that can help with that. But if they are unpaid, then they really wouldn't be part of the overall operating costs of the business. So I know there's many family businesses where that happens. But if they're unpaid in any way, then they would not be included in the, essentially if they're not filing taxes. Remember, this is government money. This is federal money coming out of taxpayer dollars. So a lot of these rules go along with how we are allowed to spend that money. Okay. No problem, Anne. I'm thinking about retirement too, every day. If a nonprofit has received a grant from another entity, does that count as being successful in other relief efforts? No, absolutely not, Reg. This is why the community foundations are working on the nonprofits. We know that some nonprofits' demand for their services were hit very heavy in terms of, especially if they were a safety net, food banks, that type of thing, social services. If they have, some nonprofits are actually doing quite well because they were able to access additional funding. But the community foundations will make that call. They tend to know their nonprofits very well. There's a narrative section of the application where you can explain why you need the money in both applications. Okay. David, unpaid as part of so volunteers with the application for the nonprofit, there's a section where you can indicate how many volunteers you have. Yeah. Okay. Will the pre-quiz be similar to what the SBA used on their EIDL loan application? Meaning, Will it be a questionnaire posted before? Yes, Kyla, it will be. So they'll go to the application website, you do your pre-quiz. You might, they're very basic questions. They're thinking, did you have sales in excess of $2 million in 2019? You say, yes. You'll get an immediate message that says you are ineligible and a link to the eligibility requirements. So yes, that's how it's set up. How will the lottery be administered? We are using an online system, and forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of it right now. Basically, every application that comes in is issued it's a random number generator, so a random identification. Every single one, unique, random. It's not alphabetical. It's not in order of in order that they came in. It's completely random. It's actually generated by a computer. Once all applications are in, we have a period of about 2 weeks where every single application is reviewed by a human to make sure that all the data checks out. There are provisions like if you owe, you have to be in good standing with the county. If you owe the county a bunch of money, we have to kick you out. That's one of our things. If you've defaulted on federal debt, we have to kick you out. If you're an ineligible type of business, if you're a cannabis businesses, for example, are not eligible. So if it comes through and it looks like you're a cannabis business, we have to go investigate to make sure it's not. So now we have this big bucket of eligible businesses with random number generators, and we use a computer software program to basically rearrange them, and then with the amount needed, and when we get to $7 million, it cuts off. Okay. It's not a bingo machine where we pull balls out. I wish it was. I think that'd be kind of fun, but it would take a long time.
Another question. So
Yeah.
Is there any follow-up or accountability paperwork that the business will need to do, or the nonprofit if they get money?
So that is all handled in the upfront through a number of verifications that you sign your application. So there are a whole list of questions, which I won't read them off all to you, but by checking this box, I verify that I'm owner of this business, blah, blah, blah. By checking this box, I verify I intend to continue business operations post-COVID. So these funds are not designed for businesses that are winding down and going out of businesses. I verify if our business is awarded by Placer Shares grant, I commit our intent to use the grant funding only for the purpose of business continuation. So there are a series of questions. And when the check is actually sent to you, you will receive a notification that says, by signing this check, I have agreed, you once again verify that you're spending those funds. What that does is, I mean, if you think about this in the big picture, in the grand context, this is an unprecedented amount of money that has been issued by the federal government. Placer County is subject to an audit by the federal government, of course. Every time money comes out of the feds or the state, you are always subject to an audit. So all of these steps we've put in place are to protect the Board of Supervisors, protect the county, to try to attempt to protect from fraud. There is no way that the federal, I guess the follow-up information for these amounts of money there will not be follow-up reporting. It would be too onerous. But it's why we're taking a lot of time up front to review every single application. You may receive a call about your application if there's a question, but there's a 2-week process where we have about 12 people, an army of people just reviewing every single item and line item. Under baseline eligibility, what does highest job loss per EDD mean? Okay, that's an excellent question. These are the industries that, I must have taken out. Industries that were, that have job loss greater than 50%. They are non-grocery retail, lodging industry, in dining restaurant industry, personal services such as barbershops or hair salons, massage therapists. So they're sort of a salon category. There's a number of categories in that high unemployment And we know this from the EDD because this is the first time the EDD has ever accepted unemployment claims from self-employed people. Previously, we would not have known all that information because it's only the employees going to, but when you have smaller businesses that employ a lot of independent contractors, we have a better picture into what the unemployment is. So that's what that means. And we have those numbers for Placer County. We have them granular down to the county level, so we know what the numbers are and where they've been trending.
Well, that was great information. I think it will serve our business community well moving forward once the applications are available on August 25th. Jane, thank you very much. Kristin, thank you very much. And a reminder that the website that you want to go look for is placer.ca.gov/shares. Did I remember that correctly? Woohoo! So find your information there. And again, on behalf of the chambers from Rocklin, Lincoln, and Loomis, I thank our speakers and our attendees. And I thank the county for making these resources available to our businesses and nonprofits. I think that we're one of the very few counties that is being able to take advantage of these shared funds. So thank you for creating Placer Shares for your business community. And with that,
Wendy, there's one more question. And it's
okay.
a really, really important question that I want to answer. The question is, we have a vacation rental in Placer County. All of our bookings from March through mid-June were canceled. Can we apply? And unfortunately, the answer is no. And there are really two reasons. Number one is that this is designed for businesses that do not have access necessarily to other funds. So, but if you're a property owner would have access to a line of credit potentially through their home. But also if you don't have people in, your operating expenses have come down. Of course, you still have your mortgage and your tax payments. Those are tax deductible on your federal tax return. So there's a tracing back to the federal money. The other reason is that we have noted in both Placer and Nevada County that even though Airbnb, VRBO weren't allowing bookings, that there is an underground market for vacation rentals that is robust. And many of these vacation homes have been full. We do not have the ability to track that. And the last thing the county wants is to be called out for granting money to a vacation owner. And I'm not suggesting at all, Donna, that you've done this at all. But if the county grants money to a business that is not compliant with the current state mandate, that can blow back in the county. So that is a really important, you will be asked actually in the verification to indicate that you are compliant with the current state mandates. Yeah, Don, I'm sorry. There's a whole can of worms associated with that. I completely understand the plight, but it's a line we can't cross because of the federal money, and it's a line that we don't want to get involved in with the compliance issues. So apologies for that.
And Wendy, just a word, perhaps before we close, I would just remind everybody, we are in weekly contact with all of the chambers. And so any updates or information changes, we will certainly convey to them, which they in turn can convey to you. And I know before we got started, Wendy also asked me to kind of also remind you that if you have need of PPE supplies or anything like that for your business, again, your chambers are your go-to for that information and those supplies as well.
Yeah, and I will offer this. We had our first, we're actually building the application right now, and then we go into testing. And so it will be I can probably do a preview of the application and a walkthrough and record it before. And as soon as I know that, Jane will know. And then Wendy, we could do this live for your members as well. Okay? And we're happy to do that.
All right, everyone. Thank you. And don't forget to apply on August 25th. Thank you again.
Great. Or maybe not all at the same time so we don't crash anywhere.
Just these people at the same time.
Yes, all of you.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.